Right, the man behind here is Chris Larner, and he's in Jersey for one night only.
Hiya.
What are you up to, Chris?
I'm here at the Jersey Arts Centre, performing a one-man show called An Instinct for Kindness, which is a story. I don't know where to start with it, really. 18 months ago, my ex-wife, Alison, who was a long-time sufferer from multiple sclerosis, went to Dignitas in Switzerland, where she ended her life, and I went with her to help her. And the play, An Instinct for Kindness, is the story of that. It's the story of, but it's also the story of Alison and me and Alison and our history and the events leading up to that. And so it's quite a compact show, because I knew Alison and I met her in 1982. So there's a lot of years to cram into 75 minutes of theatre. Professionally, you're a funny man. It doesn't sound like a funny subject. It's not in essence a funny subject. We all die, some of us more beautifully and less than others, and some of us less beautifully than others. But that's not a pretty subject. No one wants to talk about it, but it ain't going away. However, one of the reasons, and there are quite a few, but one of the reasons that I wanted to do this play was because I loved Alison. And even though we're divorced, and one of the reasons I loved her was because she was funny, and she was bright, and she was sassy, and she was from Yorkshire. She called a spade, and I'm a soft southerner, and she and I were like chalk and cheese. But we did have a laugh together, and even when we went to Switzerland, where we were there for 3 days, we had a laugh together. So I'm not trying to get away from the subject matter of the play, but it's...
How long did you have to live with the knowledge that it was going to happen, you were going to go out to Switzerland?
She asked me in 2007 if I'd go with her. And at that time, when she asked me, it was speculative. It was a long time in the future, if at all. This was her health was going downhill by then, quite noticeably. So she just said, if it comes to it, sometime in the future, would I agree to go with her? So when I agreed to go with her, it was a speculative yes. She, because she would have needed the help. She didn't want my permission. She didn't want to engage with a moral debate with me. She left that up to me. She just said, look, if I decide to do this, will you come with me? So it was about 3 years I had.
At that stage, did she get much support to make that trip? Was the system very supportive?
What, of going to Switzerland? No, the absolute opposite. Although it is legal in Switzerland, and Dignitas is the only organisation in Switzerland, there are others, the only organisation that allows aliens from outside Switzerland to come in and use the facilities, as it were. And although that is legal in Switzerland, assisted suicide or assisted death, however you want to call it, in this country is certainly not illegal, albeit there has been some movement in the legislative process recently. But it's not illegal. It's not legal to do it. It's a grey area whether people helping someone to get to Switzerland in order to end their lives, whether they are breaking English law, because you could say, I boarded a plane at Leeds Bradford Airport with the clear intention of helping someone commit suicide, even though that was going to be legal. Do you see what I mean? So it becomes a grey legal area. Because of that, that's a difficulty, because you need the assistance of professionals. You need the services of notaries, of solicitors, of doctors, of travel agents, of taxi drivers, and these various people. And certainly until recently, there was quite a large fear of prosecution from amongst those professional bodies, that they were going to be prosecuted for assisting.
This idea that you would have a theatrical presentation about this activity, was that ever made known to Alison, or hadn't crystallised in your mind?
It hadn't crystallised. There was one day when we were busy sorting out the endless hoop-leaping bureaucracy and frustration which is getting to Dignitas. There was a day when I said, well, you know, I've got to do a play about this. And she said, oh yeah, that'll be a laugh, wouldn't it? What, Dignitas the musical? But I didn't formulate it any more than that.
The members of your family, what do they think of it? They see it? Have they been to it and responded to it?
Alison's sister Vivian came to see it. She came to Switzerland with us as well, so there was the three of us went out there and two of us returned. So Vivian came to see the show before I went to Edinburgh Festival last year, and approved of it and reported back to the family. Alison's mother didn't feel up to seeing it, and why should she, really? But Vivian reported back that it was okay. My family are fine with doing it, yeah.
And what Alison actually came to do, was that well received in the family as well as it go? Was it objected to in the family?
No one objected to it on moral grounds. The thing is, everybody who'd known Alison had seen, everybody knew what a strong and spirited woman she was, and she was not someone to give up on life or on anything, in fact, easily. When she did make her mind up about something, it was like a glacier coming at you. But she wasn't one to give up lightly. But everybody who'd known her and loved her had seen this absolutely determined woman just be dismantled, really, by her MS over the years, and so everybody knew that she had not got to that decision lightly at all, you know. So there wasn't an objection.
Was the professional transformation for you from a lyricist, funny man, to this? Is it just a theatrical role, or obviously it's personal?
It's not just a theatrical role, but there is bizarrely there is a commonality. There is storytelling. There is connecting with an audience. There is having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you're telling a story. And the subject matter is different, and it's very personal. And it was very hard emotionally to write and to rehearse. That was really dragging stuff up from the past, and so to frame it into a theatrical piece was painful and satisfying at the same time, because I thought, right, now I've got this, and I've got this show which is just me in a chair, which is having an extraordinary effect on audiences everywhere I go with it. And it's a very odd thing to think you've got that little a self-contained unit of that. You
didn't set out to be a campaigner, but you've become part of the campaign, because there is a campaign.
No, I didn't set out to be a campaign, but inevitably, I think if, I would say 99% of people who would witness someone go through either a terrible debilitating disease, someone who ends up wanting to die, and then someone who is prevented from dying when really medical science has got nothing to offer them. I think anybody who's gone through that is going to end up with an opinion that the law, as it is to say the least, needs looking at. But I didn't write this play with campaigning in mind. I wrote it, I don't know quite why, personal catharsis, I suppose. The story was burning a hole in me, and I needed to get it out there. But as I rehearsed it, as I wrote it and got more and more into it, I got angrier and angrier on Alison's behalf. This was just absurd. This was a woman who didn't want to give up easily. You know, she would have done anything to have got better, or to have just got some part of her body back. So I have, I suppose, become something of a campaigner, albeit through different means. I mean, I think merely telling Alison's story and allowing people to meet her and her story has its own message, you know.
You're now in Jersey, which has its own jurisdiction, so the discussion hasn't taken place, I can tell you that.
Right.
The subject of that's the discussion. Presumably you've been to other parts of the United Kingdom, Scotland, Ireland. Is the situation different in any of those places? Is there a more enlightened law already in place anywhere?
Well, the touring that I've done has been sporadic and bitty. I have gone all over the place. I haven't been to Scotland, apart from the Edinburgh Festival, which is a different animal. I haven't been to Scotland yet. I'm going to Scotland next week, actually. I went to Northern Ireland, and an old friend of Alison's, actually, who came to see the show, said, you know, we're all very religious here. We're all very religious. It doesn't matter what side you're on. Everybody's fierce in Northern Ireland. And that seemed to attract an awful lot of media attention, my being there in Northern Ireland. A lot of papers were phoning up with a lot of lather, going, this is going to be the hottest subject ever, because we don't talk about this in Northern Ireland. However, my experience of the rest of the UK is no one else talks about it either. It's too uncomfortable a subject. I played a gig in Cardiff, which was interesting, at the Millennium Centre, in the Studio Theatre there. And that was interesting because Cardiff Teaching Hospitals, where Dr. Elora Finlay, who's the leading light in palliative care in this country, and a quite brilliant woman, who's also an absolutely staunch opponent of any change in the law. She was in the audience, and she and I had a long discussion with the audience after the show, so that was interesting.
There's no discussion, I take it, in Jersey after tonight?
I don't think there is. It's down mainly to theatres and what time, you know, they need to shut up and things like that, rather than any moral consideration.
Do you know this island since you're
I don't know. I've never been to Jersey before. It's a beautiful sunny day, I'm glad to say, and I've been wandering around the fish market. Aha.
It is.
But I haven't been here before, much to my shame.
The campaign as it is in the UK, where is it? What do you know about it? I mean, is it one campaign or several campaigns?
The main focus of the campaign is through an outfit called Dignity in Dying, formerly known as the Voluntary Euthanasia Society, who are campaigning for legislative change at the moment, and they're campaigning on a very narrow platform, really, which is to change the law so that people who are terminally ill, and by that we mean a year, or some would argue 6 months, guaranteed dead within 6 months, that those people could be allowed the option of taking their own life. For me, that's too narrow a definition. I've come instinctively from an anarchist point of view. I think this is my life. I look after my life, thank you. I understand there's plenty of concerns and worries that people who are vulnerable, old people, people who are depressed, might be forced into a position, should the law be changed, might be forced into a position whereby they might feel obliged to take their own life. I think those things can be countered, but it all needs to be discussed. I've had a lot of talks with people from the Benelux countries and people from Oregon State in the US, where for the past 11 years now, assisted suicide, again under very limited circumstances, has been allowed. And talking to those people makes me worry about law change much less. I'm much less frightened than I was when I started, thinking, actually, yes, if we change the law, there's all kinds of people out there who go, I could just get my hands on Granny's money. So, and I think probably there are enough people working in social services and in the medical services who are absolutely worried about that condition. I think it would be very unlikely that abuses would take place. And indeed, in the last decade, there have been no cases officially come to light of abuse in that way in either Oregon or Washington State or Holland or Belgium or you know. So
the idea that this would be your life's work presumably doesn't appeal to you. Not professionally. You can't tour forever with this show. No,
I can't really. It still means a lot to me, just telling Alison's story. The day will come, I suppose, where I wander off stage and go, oh, it was all right tonight. I don't know. And when that day comes, I won't be doing it anymore. So, because it is a very personal story, and I want it to be that way. But so long as it has the other argument is, so long as it has some effect on the argument, on the debate, then I am happy to continue doing it. But no, I mean, my wife Julie is as it has in the last year, occasionally gone a bit nuts and gone,
will you stop doing this play?
will you get back to doing some nonsensical farce or something? So no, it can't go on forever, but it's a very odd, rare and strange privilege actually to, as a man who's been a practicer of more or less nonsense most of his adult life, to have been given this very serious, sombre and, I think, life-affirming story to tell, you know.
Thank you much indeed.